Govindanandini, tell us something to uplift us. There's lots of talk of enlightenment going on. This is like a buzzword with the yoga people, enlightenment, right? So tell us something to help enlighten us.
About how Lalita Devi, she is ready to abandon 100,000 bodies to accumulate 100,000 karma for the bodies that she's able to do that. And also to engage 100,000 people.
Jai.
So like Nityananda Prabhu, we have today a blessing day because she's like very able to recruit each and everyone for the service. So
that's something that I was meditating on this morning. That's so extraordinary about the nature of Lalita Devi. So today, for those who are not aware, today is Lalita Saptami. It is the Ananga mi carnal, por favor, un poco. Gracias. Yeah, I was meditating on that this morning, how extraordinary. There's this Lalita Devi has this. Oh yeah, I was saying that for those who aren't aware, today is the divine appearance day of Lalita Saki, who is the right hand #1 attendant of Srimati Radharani and Krishna, and we'll discuss more of that. But one, I like the point. Go see, we're like on the same wave here. This is exactly what I was thinking about. How Lalita Devi, on the one hand, she's known as having this very, almost like fierce service mood, very strong service mood, and there's a level of intolerance there. And she, even with Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna themselves, like she can speak to them in a way that nobody else can speak to them. She can chastise them, correct them, tell them what they're supposed to be doing. So there's like we tend to associate this like strictness with the character of Lalita Devi. But what's often less known, let's say, is that there's also this, as Govindanandini was pointing out, there's this extraordinary magnanimity that is within her also. And Gurudev actually compared her to Nityananda Prabhu, that there's this extreme generosity in her mood. So it's a very wonderful combination. And the verse which, so again, let's also give a little more context. So, Krishna, he has, there are billions of gopis with whom he enjoys in Vrindavan. Amongst all of these gopis, there are 8 who are principal, and they're the principal attendants. And Lalita Devi, she is the foremost amongst them. So she has a very high position, as I understand, not only within Madhura Rasa, but in Vrindavan, like as a whole, she has she has a very prominent position. What was I going to say? Oh, so this verse here, Suvasanidhi, Dandavad, Suvasanidhi. Happy to have you with us on this very special day. We're here in our beautiful Tijuana temple with the sweet Mexican devotees. So the verse which Govindanandini was referencing it's from a composition by Srila Rupa Goswami, Lalita Ashtakam, in glorification of Lalita Devi. And actually, we're very fortunate. We have a recording of Gurudev reciting these verses very beautifully. They're 9 verses in glorification of Lalita Devi. And the first one is very well known and is many times, so many times, Srila Gurudev, our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, our Param Gurudev, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, we hear them chanting this verse. And that verse, Radha Mukunda Parasambhava Garma Bindu Nirmanchano Vakarane Kritadeha Laksham Utunga Sohrida Vishesha Vasat Pragalvam Devim Gunai Sulalitam Lalitam Namami. This is the first verse of these 8 verses. And glorifying this extraordinary zealousness that she has, that and this example is given, Rupa Goswami gives, of that if how does she conceive of her duty and position to ensure that not 1 inch of disturbance, not 1 drop of disturbance will enter the higher plane, And in this way, there's this interesting parallel between our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, and Lalita Devi. Our Gurudev had this special affinity for the mood of Lalita Devi and the person of Lalita Devi. But this is how she positions herself, that she doesn't want to allow 1 drop of disturbance to enter the higher plane. So she sees that somehow there's been some tiny disturbance, and the example given is that if she sees there's 1 bead of sweat, at the feet of Shri Radha Mukunda, Radha Krishna, Radha Govinda, if there's 1 bead of sweat, which indicates some exertion, then she's furiously chastising herself. Oh, I have not done my service properly. How could this happen? And it deho laksha means that she's ready to take on 100,000 bodies, in her eagerness to go to remove that disturbance. She's ready to take on 100,000 bodies. So this, she's setting the highest standard of service, talk about being intense, this is intense, this is the highest degree of intensity. So yeah, these are things that we are, as we were mentioning with Tananga Prabhu earlier, like we're shy, actually, we don't feel qualified to enter into this subject matter. These are, this is all connected with the higher Leela of Shri Radha and Krishna and the Braja Gopis. So, a little bit carefully, but she has this pragalbam. This is another word in that verse. She has this like haughtiness is how sometimes Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes it, this haughtiness, like a kind of arrogance, in the way she's conducting things, but out of this hridam, what is that? So this is born out of deep love and affection, just like a parent or a guardian, they may assert, to their children, like for their own good, I know what's best for you, listen to me, this is what you have to do for your own welfare, for your own benefit. She takes this kind of role, and nobody else, she's the only one who can speak like this, and she's also a little partial on the side of Srimati Radharani, that is also mentioned about her, that they're sometimes in the play between Shri Radha, Krishna, sometimes things are going more in favor on Krishna's side, sometimes things are going a little more on the side of Radharani, but she's always a little more on the side of Srimati Radharani, and actually one point that Gurudev mentioned, we heard from Janardhan Maharaj, is that it's mentioned Mahaprabhu, he took he took Harinam, he took his initiation, took Diksha with Ishwara Puri. And then he took his sannyas initiation from Keshava Bharati, right? But then it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you want to enter the Leela of Radha Krishna, you have to be given entrance by the Sakis, by the Brajago. You don't get, and there's a famous verse, which I've never learned, but it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, saying that you only the Sakis, the girlfriends of Krishna, the gopis, they can give entrance to that higher Leelas. Only if you have the blessings of one of the Sakis can you have entrance there. And so it's mentioned in that context, it's mentioned sometimes that Mahaprabhu, this is why he approached like Ramananda Rai was the one who gave this entrance. Of course, not that Mahaprabhu needs that, he's the source of all of that, but he's, showing this in his Leela. This is the path, right? You have to have that guide. You have to have that person who's giving you that entrance. And so what Gurudev mentioned is how why was Ramananda Rai chosen? And Gurudev said because Ramananda Rai is Vishakha Devi, and so Lalita Vishakha, they're like the two most prominent, and in amongst the Sakis, but because Lalita Devi, she's a little more on the side of Radharani, then Mahaprabhu in the mood of Krishna, he thought better go to Ramananda, who is Vishakha, that might work out better, for him. This was a point that Gurudev mentioned, which, we are not qualified to enter into this, but this is one comment of Gurudev's. So Lalita Devi, she is especially partial, to the interest of Radharani, that she wants, Radharani's dignity to be honored, Radharani's position to be honored and appreciated in the way that it should. And and I think as Govindandini mentioned, she's also recruiting people, she's so much on the side of her divine mistress, she wants to recruit people. So sometimes she's taking applications, let's say, and sometimes she's approaching persons, and sometimes you want to join our party, and sometimes persons are approaching her, oh, please take me in, please enlist me, and she's accepting them and bringing them in. So that there's this magnanimity that is there also, and as I said, these are topics which are very high. We don't feel. Not only do we not feel, but we just are not, full stop, qualified, to discuss or to dwell on too much. However, we find out more about the divine character of Lalita Devi in the form of Srup Damodar. So Lalita Devi in Gora Leela, within the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, Lalita Devi appears as Srup Damodar. And so we get some more insight into her character in that way, and Srup Damodar, he's sometimes described as the second self of Mahaprabhu, Dvitiya Vigraha, Dvitiya Kalevara, he's the second form of Mahaprabhu. They are so closely connected, and Srup Damodar, and this is a point also about Lalita Devi, she's that person who knows more, she knows better what is needed, even more, she knows what Radha Krishna need and want more than they know themselves, that level of love and care she has. And so we see in the person of Srup Damodar how before anything can come to Mahaprabhu, it goes through Srup Damodar, because he's so deeply, finely, in tune and in understanding of the mood and sentiment, feelings of Mahaprabhu, that he knows what's suitable for Mahaprabhu to see, what's not suitable, what is going to what is going to support his mood, what is going to disturb his mood. So before anything is brought to Mahaprabhu, it goes through Damodar. Damodar is the filter. You know? And there's that example given in Chaitanya Charitamrita of one gentleman who composes something, some poetry in praise of Lord Jagannath, I think. And runs it by Damodar. Damodar is like, sorry, this is all rasa bas. No, this is, you know, mixing the rasas, and this is going to be, you know, he can recognize this is rasa bas, like inappropriate mixing of the different moods of devotion and different relationships, or apasiddhantic, totally against the siddhanta. You know, he can. Now we have Ananga Krishna.
He just left.
Oh, he's joining now. He's in the room here. And we have Jai Balai Prabhu here, everyone's favorite devotee. So Sri Damodar, there's this example given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This gentleman, right? And Sri Damodar is like, he points out why this is inappropriate, why this is going to be disturbing to Mahaprabhu. So very, very central role, and particularly in the last pastimes of Mahaprabhu, in those last 12 years, Mahaprabhu's, he's completed his public duty. He's completed his public duty of saving the conditioned souls, distributing the Maha Mantra, Harinam, saying the movement, inaugurating the movement of Harinam Sankirtan. And now in those last 12 years, he's entering into that, that internal reason for which he descended, to taste that mood of separation that Srimati Radharani experiences, that pain of divine separation, that pain and also that joy that he experienced in separation from Krishna. This is the real inner reason for Mahaprabhu's descent into this world. And so, it's a very, he's entering this internal sphere. He's entering this internal sphere, and it's a very sensitive, his mood is very, he's in a very sensitive environment. And so there, there's this care. Dandavat, Didi. But when you're like if someone's in like a fragile, sensitive condition, then, you can only tolerate having particular persons around you who are sensitive enough to appreciate what you're going through and kind of support that appropriately. And so Mahaprabhu is in more of a reclusive mode in those last 12 years, and not mixing with so many persons. And in particular, Sri Damodar and also Ramananda Rai. These are the two principal associates who are supporting Mahaprabhu at this time. So Sri Damodar, Ramananda Rai, they would select like, oh, this verse or this song, this prayer will enhance Mahaprabhu's mood or will calm Mahaprabhu's mood, at any given time, Sri Damodar is known as being a beautiful singer as well. That's one thing that's mentioned. So he would sing, he would know like which Bhagavatam verse is appropriate and sing very beautifully to support Mahaprabhu. Very, very, very closely intertwined. And it's mentioned, after Mahaprabhu took sannyas and he went to stay in Puri, we have Karan has joined us, Dandavat Karan, and also Seva Rupa Devi Dasi, Dandavat, Seva Rupa Didi, and we have a Dani who I think is joining. the first time here. And Suyash Krishna Prabhu has also been here. Welcome, Prabhu and Mauritius. Everyone. So it's mentioned that Gurudev actually made this interesting point once, how, after Mahaprabhu took sannyas, then all of his associates, they also took sannyas, in the sense that they gave up their lives and they followed Mahaprabhu, not necessarily like staying with him, but living in that mode of life, fully absorbed in their service to Mahaprabhu. So like group Sanatan, they ultimately gave up their work and they settled in Vrindavan and they fulfilled the service that Mahaprabhu had asked of them, and many others. And then so Srup Damodar also, Srup Damodar, as I recall, he grew up in Navadvip with Mahaprabhu. Is that right, Nishinga Prabhu? I think so. And he was a brahmachari, and he went to take the order of sannyas, but it's mentioned that he was in, like when Mahaprabhu went to stay in Puri, then Sri Damodar, he went to Varanasi to take sannyas there. But he was in so much, it's mentioned in Charitamrita, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj also elaborates on it, that he was in so much ecstasy, he couldn't even complete the sannyas ceremony. So he got halfway through the ceremony and then he just went running to Puri. He couldn't deal with any more formalities. So he retained the brahmachari title, the Damodar, I think it is, the brahmachari title. And there's a very beautiful description of their meeting. There's a very beautiful verse, a famous verse of Srup Damodar, where he's glorifying Helo Duni Takedaya Vishadaya. You know that verse, where he's glorifying the mercy of Mahaprabhu. And there's a very beautiful description of their meeting. Mahaprabhu, they had some period of separation, right? After Mahaprabhu took sannyas. And then there's a very beautiful description of their reunion in Puri and how Sri Damodar falls flat at the feet of Mahaprabhu and chanting this verse, glorifying Mahaprabhu and his mercy. And then Mahaprabhu tells him I'm like a person who had lost their eyes and now their sight has been restored. You are my eyes. How can I see anything without you? How can I live without you? This is the very close, very tight bonds that they have. And you see consistently throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, particularly in the Puri pastimes, how Srup Damodar is always on hand, he's always managing Mahaprabhu, as I said, knowing more than Mahaprabhu what's good for him, telling him what to do when needed, Mahaprabhu will be distributing prasadam. Jai Ishwari Devi. We have Ishwari here now, dear sister Ishwari. Chinmoy's waving. Mahaprabhu is eager to go and distribute prasadam. He's distributing prasadam to all the devotees. And Srup Damodar is okay, my lord, now it's time for you to sit down. And actually, nobody's going to eat if you haven't eaten. So, settle down now, take your prasadam. Like this, And so many occasions. And there was another example I wanted to give. I've forgotten. Shinga, you want to say something? Our special guest here is the Sringa Chaitanya Prabhu. I just trying to remember. There was one other thing I wanted to say, but I can't remember. But Anyway, we have our special guest here, Nishin Chaitanya. Will you say something?
I don't have much. I think the only thing that came to my mind when
Whoa,
you
whoa, whoa, whoa. Come sit here.
the same verse, but just
And also Narayani has joined us. Welcome, Narayani.
reminded. Maybe you can confirm, but when Sub Damodar is praising Mahaprabhu's mercy, one of the lines there's Amando Daya.
Yeah. That's like the famous phrase from that verse. Can you all hear? Your voice is so soft. Can you hear Nishinga Prabhu?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay.
Just that, and
maybe I'm
but
deaf.
that point stuck in my mind when I read it a long time ago. That
actually, we should look it up.
That Daya meaning mercy, but it's a very fine point that mercy in this world generally can mean many things, but in the grand scheme of the spiritual potential of the soul, different forms of mercy in this world, like they fall flat of that. You can help someone's body, you can help different things, but in eternity, those forms of mercy, they don't, they come and go. And even you could say some forms, like there's the expression enabling. You can be merciful to someone in such a way that it enables further bad behavior. And so I don't know, Manda
means bad.
Right.
Yeah. So Amando
non-bad. Right. He said your mercy produces no ill effect. It's the mercy that actually is what mercy should be. It goes to the soul and it uplifts the eternal quality, the eternal, value of the soul. So I don't know, that point always stuck with me. That Mahaprabhu's mercy is Amando Daya. It's all good from start to finish. There's no downside. Anyway, that's all. Just I remembered when you were speaking.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Yeah. So I found the verse here. So this is a verse by Sub Damodar, and you'll find in one of our sermons books, Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses this verse, and it's very beautiful, very charming the way Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes it. Like he says how Sub Damodar fell at the feet of Mahaprabhu with this verse upon his lips. It's very poetic the way Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes it. And this is the verse. And you'll hear I'm not a scholar, I'm not like but like poetically speaking, it's also it's done in a very wonderful way. You'll hear this daya, which is repeated. Daya means mercy. But here, it's a different word here. Daya, it's like referring to giving, like bestows. But Chinmoy's put the verse here. Thank you very much. But there's this alliteration, what you call it? The sound is the same. Yeah.
Words begin with the same letter. That's alliteration.
Oh, then what is it when the sound is the same? See, I haven't been to school in a long time.
I think it's alliteration. Yes, alliteration.
Maybe it's also called alliteration. But anyway, well, either way, it's alliteration, right? So this daya is repeated. And so the daya that's used throughout the verse, it's referring to like bestowing, like your mercy bestows this and this and this. But then at the end, the daya there is mercy, or doya, if you would, in Bengal, you would say. So there's this beautiful, the sound play throughout. So he's like listing, and there's some parallel here with the first verse of Shikshashtakam, Cheto Darpan, that verse, which is describing the effects of Harinam, the holy name. So anyway, this is the verse. Helo dunita kedaya vishadaya pranmilada modaya samyak shastra vivadaya rasadaya chitar pitanmadaya shashwat bhakti vinodaya samadaya madhurya maryadaya shri chaitanya dayani de tavadaya uyad amandodaya. Your mercy, this is the translation, your mercy easily dispels distress, purifies the soul, produces the greatest joy, concludes all scriptural arguments, showers rasa, maddens the heart. And you can notice, right, just like in the Cheto Darpana Marjam, there's a progression here, you know, removing, and there's an order also. There's an order here. First, purification, removing the negative layers, then entering into higher plane of divine rasa, divine sentiments. First, take a shower, you know, then you get dressed up. Your mercy easily dispels distress, purifies the soul, produces the greatest joy, concludes all scriptural argument, showers rasa, maddens the heart, inspires eternal devotion, produces equanimity, and is the ultimate divine sweetness. O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya, please bestow your non-harm producing mercy upon me. So this is the point Nishinga Prabhu is making. And I've heard that it was something that Saraswati Thakur emphasized. It was like a phrase that Saraswati Thakur used to discuss. That, as Prabhu said, you know, what we may conceive of as mercy in this world is actually perpetuating or enabling a particular level of dysfunction. But the mercy of Mahaprabhu, you know, it's all good from start to finish, as Prabhu said very nicely. So this is from Sri Damodar, Lalita Saki. Yeah, very, very, you know, deep connection with Mahaprabhu. And we hear that after Mahaprabhu left the world, Sri Damodar could not stay in the world, and he left that night or the next day. You know, that the bond was so deep and so close. He could not remain in the world without Mahaprabhu. So this is the, you know, this is the position of Sri Damodar. You know, in Gaura Leela and also in Krishna Leela, you know, like a general, you know, like a position, like a general amongst the group of Mahaprabhu. And also we can add, that was the thing that I wanted to mention earlier that I forgot, was about Raghunath Das, the example of Raghunath Das Goswami. That, you know, when Mahaprabhu, you know, Raghunath Das Goswami, he goes to great trouble to escape from his, you know, opulent lifestyle, which most people would not try to escape from in this world. But he goes to great lengths to escape billionaire lifestyle, actually, by modern standards. They were billionaires, really. Manages to escape. He comes to the shelter of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu puts him in the care of Sri Damodar. And then there comes a point when Raghunath is feeling like, oh, I came here to take shelter of Mahaprabhu, but I haven't had any personal instructions from Mahaprabhu. You know? So he's feeling this, and this is represented to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu tells him, you know, I put you in the care of Sri Damodar, not because that's something less, but Sri Damodar knows more than me, you know, what this is. You know, that's the position of Sri Damodar. You know? And then lastly, I wanted to say, you know, for our, you know, for us in this line, the line of our, not that we are in this line, but our gurus are in this line. You know, Lalita Devi has a very particular, very special position, you know, because, you know, we are, you know, we hear that, you know, we are in the camp of Sri Rupa. You know, our gurus are in that camp, you know, that has been identified as the highest goal and the highest attainment of the jiva. That's like Srila Sridhar Maharaj put it once, like it's been pinned down there. Like this is it. This is the highest point of attainment. You know, in the camp of Rupa, Sri Rupa, Rupa Manjari, you know, and Rupa Manjari, you know, she is serving under the direction of Lalita Saki. So, there was a particular expression of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, which I'm not sure I can remember now, where he harmonized like these connections, you know, like, you know, I don't want to mess it up, so I won't say it, but you know, so like the camp of Radharani in a general sense, but then under, you know, there are different groups, right? There's Chandravali's group and there's Radharani's group, but then within Radharani's group, there's also, you know, different groups. And so Lalita Devi, she has the supreme position there. And then Rupa Manjari is the head of the Manjari group. The Manjaris are the young girls, you know, who have the access to very intimate service to Shri Radha Krishna. And so that group of Rupa Manjari is what our gurus have identified as our, you know, the highest attainment, you know, their aspiration, the aspiration they're trying to give us. And Rupa Manjari is serving under the direction of Lalita Devi. She also has, Gurudev mentioned, she also has her own relationship with Radharani and Krishna, but she's also taking, you know, she's also like a type of subordinate to Lalita Devi, also taking, you know, instruction from her. So, you know, in that sense, the position of Lalita Devi is very significant, you know, for our Guru Varga. And actually, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he describes how the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, like a Gaudiya means someone who is serving under Lalita Devi or Sri Damodar. And there's this incident in Chaitanya Charitamrita, because so like we say Vaishnav, but actually, strictly speaking, Vaishnava means devotee of Vishnu, right? So Vaishnava means devotee of Vishnu, Karshna means devotee of Krishna, and then Gaudiya means servant of Radharani under Lalita. Saraswati Thakur gave this explanation, and he used as one of his like points of reference this one occasion in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when it's during the Gundicha Marjan Leela, and Mahaprabhu is washing the temple in the mood of a devotee of Jagannath. And then there's this one Bengali Vaishnava who comes and he takes some foot water of Mahaprabhu and drinks it. And Mahaprabhu internally, he's appreciating the devotional sentiments of that devotee, but in the mood of also in the mood of the devotee and showing an example, he shows some irritation. Like, I'm here cleaning the Lord's temple and you're offering this reverence to me, and he shows some anger. And so he says to Swarup Damodar, look at what your Gaudiya has done. Just Tomar Gaudiya. He says like that, your Gaudiya. So Saraswati Thakur draws out this explanation from that. You know? Because sometimes we'll think of Gaudiya as, sometimes it means a Bengali Vaishnava, you know, but like in the deepest sense, it means this, like Vaishnavas who are you know, serving servants of Radharani under Lalita Saki or Sri Damodar in Gaura Leela. So, you know, the position of Lalita Devi, Sri Damodar is very important. Gurudev mentions, I think in Divine Guidance, there's a chapter where Gurudev's discussing something about Lalita Devi, and he says, you know, no, Radha Krishna, they are very busy, you know, they don't have so much time. Or you're saying Radharani actually doesn't have so much time for us, but Lalita Devi, you know, by her grace, by her mercy, we can get some entrance. she has this, as you said in the beginning, she has this magnanimous nature, in addition to this, strictness that she has in her service also. So anyway, I think I've said enough. I feel like I've made so many offenses in saying anything about these high subject matters. But it's one of those special days, where to honor the day, we try to say something. Does anyone else want to share anything, or today anything comes to mind? Suvasini, Didi, anything comes to mind you want to share?
Dandavats, Didi, Dandavats to all the devotees. Yeah, I just was thinking, I mean, maybe, I don't know, you have said it already. I joined a bit late. It's, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, actually, right? It's Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. It is actually from the notes of Raghunath Das Goswami. And it is actually that is the wealth of Swarup Damodar, who passed down to actually Raghunath Das Goswami, right? So that is, that's what comes to my mind. So that is all coming from actually Swarup Damodar, right? So.
Yes, yeah. Very, very nice points. Yeah, absolutely. Very important point. What we know about who Mahaprabhu, like the ontological nature of Mahaprabhu, that's by the grace of Swarup Damodar. And that's actually mentioned directly in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like anyone who knows like this inner esoteric nature of who Mahaprabhu is, they heard it from Swarup Damodar. That's his like revelation, his gift to the world. And as you mentioned there, Raghunath Das Goswami, he heard that from Swarup Damodar. And then Kaviraj Goswami, he had relationship with Raghunath, and he had these notebooks. And then from that, Kaviraj Goswami is giving revelation which had never been given before. What's told in Chaitanya Charitamrita was not known. Mahaprabhu is Radha Bhav Duti Sugolitam Nomi Krishna Srupam is the combined form of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. That was not something known even amongst the associates of Mahaprabhu. So that revelation came by the grace of Swarup Damodar. And also in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are those principal verses, right? Those 3 principal verses describing Mahaprabhu's nature and purpose in coming to this world. And one of those, if not 2, is Swarup Damodar's own verses that, which one is it? Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kijishovan. I think that one's Swarup Damodar. Maybe the other one too, Radha Krishna. Yeah, I think those 2. The first one, Anarpita Chirim Chirat, is Rupa Goswami. And the second 2, they're Swarup Damodar, revealing this internal nature of Mahaprabhu, combined form of Radha Krishna, and that desire in the 3rd verse, describing that desire of Krishna to taste his own sweetness, to experience the position of Radharani. Those have come from Swarup Damodar. So yeah, very important points that Suvasini Didi has made. Okay, well, see, Jayadev Prabhu has just joined us also. Welcome. Narayani Devi joined us. And then Dani, I think Dani is joining for the first time. Do you want to introduce yourself, Dani? Okay, maybe not. All right. Well, maybe we'll stop there unless anybody else wants to add anything. Oh, Chinmoy is raising an arm.
You mentioned in the beginning.
Wait, you're on mute. Oh,
I know I am.
can they hear you?
I hope. But you mentioned in the beginning.
Yes, Suyash says, yeah.
Okay, there's a connection between our Gurudev's mood, Govinda Maharaj's mood, and Lalita's mood. About that mood.
Yeah.
mood about,
Totally spaced that one out.
yeah, maybe you can.
Do you want
mention-
to say that?
No, I'd love to hear from you. I'm not just talking about the video we talked about earlier, but like his, Lolita's mood to like remove any type of
Mm.
disturbance. Maybe-
Yeah, I dropped the ball on that one.
Oh,
Suyash is saying my question too. Yeah. I mean, that's actually most interesting and most relevant, isn't it? That's just the main point, and I just totally. Yes, well, I mean, first of all, we, to backtrack a little, we hear that when Srila Sridhar Maharaj took our Gurudev personally on the Vrindavan parikrama, and afterwards Srila Sridhar Maharaj asked him, what was your favorite place? Gurudev mentioned that, the place of Lalita Saki, Uchagaon. And Gurudev had that, natural attraction to that place, which is kind of interesting because it wasn't like one of the more built up, fancy, and still to this day, I don't think it is. So like, like many of these places, ISKCON and other organizations, they've restored, right, some of these holy sites. But I think Lalita Devi's place even today hasn't been so built up. It's not one of like the major, like Varshana, Nandagram. They're more like popular tourist spots. So Gurudev had this natural, spontaneous attraction there, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj was happy and impressed with that. And then it's interesting to note that, there's some parallels, and this is something that we've heard Goswami Maharaj discuss also, that we see these parallels between the nature of Lalita Devi and our Gurudev, and how our Gurudev served Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Gurudev conceived that, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's in this higher sphere of consciousness, percolating all these higher things and revealing, these, incredible compositions. That's not the word I'm looking for, but, expressions of divine sentiment in the form of Prema Dhamma Deva Stotram and like this, he's churning this divine substance in this upper world. And Gurudev didn't want any drop of disturbance, any hint of disturbance to enter that higher plane. So Gurudev like conceived of himself as being like on the ground floor, on a lower plane, taking care of all of like the practical necessities, keeping out any disturbance that might enter that higher plane. And also on the other side, connecting the sincere souls with Mahaprabhu, with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in the way that Sri Damodar would with Mahaprabhu, and many of the talks that came out with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, that was due to Gurudev's encouragement. Like sometimes Srila Sridhar Maharaj wasn't feeling very well, and Gurudev would press a little bit, please just speak a few words, and then a few hours would go by, So yeah, that Gurudev has shown that beautiful example of service to the higher plane. Pujala Ragapat Gorva Bange. This is always consistent. Like this positioning. I'm in a lower plane. My guru is in a higher plane, and I'm serving that higher plane. That's my connection. I'm not there myself. My guru is there, and I'm serving that plane with everything I have in this world at present before me. Did you want to add anything to that? Okay, well, I think we'll stop there for today.
Just
Right.
one last thing, Vishakha,
Yeah.
I just remembered. Today is the day that Srila Guru Maharaj completed the work of Prapana Jivanamritam. So
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Very nice points. Yeah, that's right. And
So
what
you may have
was that? Do you remember what year that was? Oh, you're on mute. You've gone on mute.
1943.
1943. 1943. Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other topic for another day too. The founding of our mosque, you know. Okay. Any last contributions, inspiration, bursts of inspiration? Should we finish there for today? So wonderful that we can stay connected like this and keep meeting. You know. Our gratitude always to Chinmoy Prabhu for always hosting these meetings, and all of yourselves for attending and giving us your good association, your good company. We have a new friend here also today, Lance. Here's our friend Lance. We collected him. We collected him from Ojai. Was it Ojai?
Dana Point.
Dana Point. Now we're pulling him along. We're making him quit his job. And no, I'm joking.
They are good at it. Take care.
Okay. Dandavat pranams to all of you. Jai Lalita Saki ki jai, Lalita Saptami ki jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Haribo.
Unique.